When someone gets rich and ghosts their entire old circle, the world delivers its verdict instantly. They changed. They forgot where they came from. They got arrogant. But that verdict is built on a foundation of willful ignorance, and the people delivering it are judging something they have never actually experienced. The real reason wealthy people cut off old friends has nothing to do with arrogance and everything to do with survival. That distinction will change everything you thought you understood about this behavior. Here is what no one is talking about. There is a specific psychological mechanism, documented by behavioral scientists for decades, that activates the moment your financial status changes significantly. It does not ask for permission. It does not care about loyalty or history. And by the end of this video, I will name exactly what that mechanism is. But when I do, you will not see this as cruelty anymore. You will see it as the most painful act of self-preservation the wealthy never talk about. The real reason behind it is not what anyone has been telling you. If you have ever lost someone to success, or if you are the one who got successful and you are carrying silent guilt about the people you left behind, stay until the final minute. This video was made for you. In the next 50 minutes, I am going to take you deeper than money changed them. We are going into the neuroscience, the psychology of identity, and the truth that wealthy people carry in silence. Survival, not abandonment. That is the hidden truth. And by the end, you will never judge this the same way again. Think about the last time your financial situation changed, even slightly. Maybe you got a significant raise. Maybe you launched something that started to gain traction. Maybe you just made more money in a single month than people you grew up with make in a year. Ask yourself honestly, did anything feel different about the people around you? Because what behavioral scientists have consistently found is that the brain begins recalibrating relationship dynamics before the conscious mind has even fully processed the change. The first signal is not cutting anyone off. It is a subtle, unmistakable discomfort. In conversations that used to feel completely natural, in silences that did not used to exist, in the way certain people respond when you talk about growth or new opportunities. You start noticing who genuinely celebrates your wins and who quietly resents them. And that noticing, once it begins, cannot be undone. Psychologist Robert Cialdini spent decades studying social influence and discovered something that permanently shifted how we understand human behavior. We look to others in our immediate social circle to define what is correct, what is appropriate, and what is possible for us to become. When that circle was formed in scarcity, wealth does not just change your bank account. It changes the silent contract your relationships have always been operating on. But what happens when those first signals intensify? When they stop feeling like discomfort and start feeling like something much closer to threat, that is where this gets truly disturbing. But here is what they never tell you about that discomfort. It has a clinical name. Psychologists call it status incongruence. The psychological friction that occurs when your internal identity begins to outgrow your external environment. And when you truly understand it, you realize that money is not just a resource. Money is a filter, a truth serum. The moment your financial situation shifts, it holds up a mirror to every relationship in your life. And not everyone looks the same in that mirror. Some people celebrate louder than you do. Some begin to shift. You can feel it in the texture of conversations, in the way certain topics go suddenly cold, in the way your wins are met with a subtle dampening instead of genuine joy. And some people show you a face that was hiding behind years of apparent friendship, a face of resentment you never knew existed. This is not speculation. Studies examining social network changes after significant life transitions consistently show that people who experience major wealth shifts lose between 40 and 60% of their pre-wealth social connections within 2 years. Not because they became cold, but because those relationships were constructed on a shared context that no longer exists. The foundation was always conditional. You just could not see it until the condition changed. The truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable. If this is already making you see your own relationships differently, hit like and subscribe, because we are just now scratching the surface of how deep this actually goes. What comes next takes us somewhere most people are never willing to look. Now forget everything mainstream culture has told you about why this happens. We need to go deeper than pop psychology. We need to go into the brain itself. Neuroscientists studying the amygdala, the brain's primary threat detection center, have found something remarkable about what happens during rapid status changes. When a person undergoes a significant financial shift, the amygdala enters a state of heightened vigilance. It does not know whether to register the new position as safe or dangerous, so it begins scanning the social environment for what researchers call status predators. People who will exploit the new resources, drain the new position, or destabilize the fragile and still forming new identity. This is not irrational, ancient. This is wiring that protected early humans when they moved between social hierarchies. The brain developed a social filter, and that filter has one directive: determine who belongs in the new chapter and who represents a threat to its survival. Threat scan activated, as neuroscientist Antonio Damasio discovered in his landmark research on emotion and decision-making. We are not thinking machines that feel. We are feeling machines that think. The brain of a newly wealthy person is not cutting people off because it wants to. It is doing it because it has calculated at a cellular level that it has no other choice. But what specifically triggers that calculation? What makes the brain decide a specific person has become a danger? That answer might be the most unsettling thing I share with you today. Stop and think about this for a second. How many people in your life right now genuinely love who you are, versus how many love what you provide, what access you give them, what validation or resources you represent? This is not a cynical question. This is a clinical one. Behavioral researchers have documented what they call parasitic relationship structures, connections that function not on genuine affinity, but on transactional value. One person provides something the other needs: emotional support, financial resources, social access, or simply the validation that staying stuck is unavoidable and acceptable. The most devastating feature of this pattern: the person in the parasitic position almost never has conscious awareness of it. The relationship feels completely authentic to them, right up until the transaction changes, until the money shifts, until the new identity begins to emerge. And then, without any explanation they can articulate, the resentment surfaces. The subtle criticism begins, the undermining starts, and the newly wealthy person discovers that what they thought was friendship was always a transaction they had been funding without knowing it. Betrayal. Wealth does not change people. It reveals who they already were before the money ever appeared. The cruelest discoveries in life are the ones made about people you trusted completely. And that revelation, as devastating as it is actually information, the most important financial information of your life. But understanding the pattern does not eliminate the guilt. And that guilt, that is the next trap they fall into. Here is where the pain becomes unbearable, because the newly wealthy person does not just feel betrayed, they feel guilty for feeling betrayed. Society has spent decades installing a profoundly damaging belief that cutting off people who knew you before your success is an act of ingratitude. That real loyalty means staying connected to your roots regardless of what those roots are doing to your growth. This programming runs so deep that wealthy people will often remain in clearly toxic, clearly parasitic relationships years longer than they should. Specifically because they cannot endure the idea of being perceived as the person who forgot where they came from. The psychological cost of this delay is well documented. Dr. Brené Brown's research on shame and guilt identified a specific pattern in people who delay separation from harmful relationships out of obligation rather than genuine connection. Guilt says I have done something bad. Shame says I am bad. Knowing the difference is the beginning of freedom. And the wealthy person who waits, who delays the inevitable separation because they fear being called cold, consistently pays for it in financial manipulation, in emotional devastation, in betrayals that leave scars that no amount of money can repair. Guilt is weaponized. The guilt is not a sign of a good heart. It is evidence of highly effective social conditioning. It is used as a leash. But the deeper question is where that conditioning comes from, and that answer lies inside the type of relationship itself. The answer will completely reframe everything you believe about loyalty. Now here is a concept that will permanently change how you look at the relationships in your own life right now. Not just historically, but today. Psychologists and sociologists have identified what they call scarcity bonds. Relationships that form and sustain themselves not through authentic connection, but through shared limitation. Two people who bond over their mutual struggles, their joint frustration, their shared story of a world that seems to be working against them. These bonds feel incredibly deep. They are forged in genuine pain and genuine vulnerability. But there is one critical feature of scarcity bonds that almost nobody understands. Scarcity, the shared limitation, is the architecture holding the relationship together. When one person breaks free from that limitation, when they build the business, make the money, create the life, the entire structure collapses. The other person does not just lose a friend, they lose the external witness to their own limitation. They lose the validation that staying where they are is rational and unavoidable. Your success becomes their mirror, and sometimes what they see in that reflection, they simply cannot accept. So what looks like abandonment from the outside is actually a structural collapse. The wealthy person did not break the relationship. The relationship broke the moment the shared scarcity ended. Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. But this collapse does not happen in isolation. It happens inside a person whose very identity was shaped by the people now falling away. And that is the most painful dimension of all. Let me pause here because this is the piece that changes the entire picture. When someone genuinely transforms their financial reality, they do not simply get more money. They become a fundamentally different version of themselves. Their values evolve, their standards shift. The conversations they want to have, the problems they want to solve, the way they want to invest their time and energy. All of it transforms at a level that cannot be reversed. Psychologists call this identity evolution, the unavoidable process of becoming who your experiences and choices have sculpted you to be. Here is the problem. Your old friends knew the previous version of you. They built a relationship with that version. Many of them carry a deep, subconscious investment in that version, staying exactly as they remember it, because if you have fundamentally changed, if your evolution is real and irreversible, then they are forced to confront the most threatening question a stagnant person can encounter. What if I could change too? What if my limitations were never external? What if they were always mine to choose, and I chose to keep them? As Carl Jung understood with devastating precision, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Your growth is not a betrayal of your origins. It is the fulfillment of everything you were always capable of becoming. The relationship does not end because the wealthy person stopped caring. It ends because the relationship cannot contain who they have become. But here is what the world calls them for it, and why that specific word is the cruelest lie in circulation. They call them disloyal. That word, disloyal, is the weapon deployed against every person who walks away from their old circle after achieving genuine financial success. And it is time to take that weapon apart piece by piece. Loyalty, as it is culturally programmed into us, is presented as unconditional. A good person stays connected to their roots. A good person does not let success create distance from the people who knew them before the money arrived. This sounds morally airtight. It feels like an unquestionable truth about character. But it contains a hidden assumption that nobody ever challenges, that those relationships were healthy to begin with, that those people genuinely had your best interests at heart, that loyalty to others should not cost you your own evolution, your own peace, your own financial future. Conditional loyalty is not betrayal. There is a profound and critical difference between abandoning someone who genuinely needs you and releasing someone whose presence requires you to remain smaller than you are. Deliberately. Society chose not to teach you that difference, because a person who understands it clearly cannot be controlled through guilt, as Epictetus, a philosopher who literally began life as a slave and understood freedom more intimately than almost any thinker in history, wrote, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." Not every bond formed in difficulty is a friendship. Many are survival alliances, and survival alliances were never built to outlast the survival situation that originally created them. What comes next is the revelation that makes all of this not just understandable, but scientifically inevitable. If everything I have told you so far disturbed you, you are not ready for this. Here is the psychological mechanism I promised at the very beginning of this video, the one that explains everything. In the 1970s, social psychologist Henry Tajfel developed what became one of the most replicated and documented frameworks in all of behavioral science, social identity theory. His research proved something deeply uncomfortable about human nature. Our sense of self is not individual, it is group-based. We define who we are by what group we belong to, and when that group membership changes, when you cross from one financial reality to another, the brain does not simply adjust your preferences or your lifestyle. It compels you to psychologically separate from the old group to preserve the coherence of the new identity. This is the mechanism. This is what has been driving all of it. And this is not cruelty. This is biology. The wealthy person who cuts off old friends is not saying you are not worthy. They are responding to a biological imperative that says, on a level they often cannot even articulate, I cannot remain who I was becoming while staying surrounded by who I used to be. Identity collapse prevented. And here is the part that will stay with you. Most of them grieve those relationships for years. The cutting off does not come with relief. It comes with devastation. Which part of this hit you hardest? Comment guilt if you have felt this yourself, recognition if you have watched someone go through it, or freedom if this just gave you permission you needed. And if you know someone who is carrying silent guilt about the people they left behind on their way up, share this video with as many people as you possibly can, because this truth needs to reach the ones who need it most. So here, finally, is the complete truth, the one that integrates every piece of what we have uncovered. The wealthy person who walked away from their old circle was not being cold. They were not being arrogant, ungrateful, or disloyal. They were doing the most painful, most psychologically honest thing a human being can do, choosing their own evolution over the comfort of familiarity, choosing a future that did not yet fully exist over a past that felt safe but was quietly and consistently shrinking them. It was never about not caring, it was about knowing. On a level that often could not be put into words, that staying would mean a different kind of death, not physical, but everything that mattered about who they were becoming would have been extinguished by staying. And the relationships they left behind, they did not lose those people. They discovered who those people actually were the moment something real enough finally tested it. That discovery, as devastating as it felt, was the most important financial and personal information of their entire life. Because you cannot build genuine abundance on a poverty foundation. You cannot grow into your full potential while tethered to relationships that only function when you are less than you are capable of being. As Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote with lasting precision, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Cutting off old friends after getting rich is not the story of someone who changed. It is the story of someone who finally became who they always were, and who finally gave themselves permission to be surrounded only by people who could see that person with clear eyes. Everything we uncovered today points to one unavoidable truth. The hidden psychology behind people who cut off friends after getting rich is not a story of cruelty. It is a story of the most profound and painful transformation a human being can undergo, and one that our culture has been systematically mischaracterizing for generations. Not cruelty, survival. From the first subtle signal, that discomfort in conversations that once felt easy, to the neuroscience of threat detection in the amygdala, the scarcity bonds that structurally collapse the moment one person evolves, the guilt trap that keeps people tethered long past the point of any health, and finally to social identity theory. The documented scientific proof that separating from the old group is biologically necessary when you fundamentally change who you are. Every single piece of this reveals the same core truth. Wealth does not make people cold. Wealth makes people honest about who they are, about what their relationships actually were, and about the cost of staying in places that no longer fit them. The question this video leaves you with is not whether you should judge the wealthy for this behavior. The real question is, are you surrounding yourself right now with people who celebrate your evolution, or people who quietly require your stagnation? Because that question matters whether you have $1 million or nothing. The people around you are either expanding you or, without malice, slowly shrinking you. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Do those 5 people look like the future you are trying to build, or the limitations you are trying to escape? If you made it this far, prove it. Comment social identity, because now you understand at the deepest psychological level exactly what is driving this behavior. Your mind is either programmed for wealth or poverty. Now you know how to reprogram it.